Hello and welcome everybody back to Cage Cash, the best UFC podcast on YouTube. This week it'll be episode 13. We'll be talking about UFC Vegas 76 as well as some quick reactions to last week's awesome UFC 290. I'm joined here by Ryan. Ryan, I heard you got your first softball win last night of the season.
Oh yeah, it was big for our team over here. We got the job done. We were playing a team that resembled the Benchwarmers out there, and thankfully our motley crew was able to find a victory. So
I've heard the softball competition is pretty tough on the west side of Michigan, so you got to enjoy that win while you have it. But we will get right into it after that. First, we're going to go through quickly our thoughts about UFC 290. If you want to just watch our predictions and analysis for UFC Vegas 76 this Saturday, you can skip ahead. We'll have the time marked out in the bar at the bottom. So, Ryan, first going back quickly to UFC 290, what were your initial takeaways? What are you thinking about nearly a week later?
yeah, the big things that are still resonating with me. I think the number one thing out of everything is probably Dricus du Plessis beating Robert Whittaker, and making it look pretty easy in the process. I thought, right? Like, it was shocking to me, and I think it was shocking to a lot of people, just given where the betting odds were at. But you also heard a lot of love from people on du Plessis this week, right? There were some big narratives going into it, whether it be the new nose and being able to breathe better, right? Or just like he was destined and needed to meet with Adesanya or something. But he kind of controlled that fight from the beginning, looked really big, and was able to just manhandle Rob a little bit there, which we've never seen Rob Whittaker lose in that way, and just kind of get out athletic and styled on a little bit. So pretty shocking to see, and Volk was awesome, as always, and now he's with Zuck training with the boys. But and then a great co-main as well. And I thought Pantoja won. I went back and rewatched it and had it 48-47 Pantoja as well. I'd go back and rewatch it. It's hard, and I probably have some bias because I had a small bet on Pantoja, but what a great fight. And then Dan Hooker and Jalen Turner as well, right? Like, just some that was amazing, and that didn't really fight of the night, right? But
and really, that's the story of the card, right? Up and down from really the first. Although my guy Quamela Kirk kind of gassed out after a solid first round. But really, the first fight to the last, some really exciting stuff. We saw Bo Nickel prove himself a little bit on the feet. Not too much of competition with Val Woodburn, but that was cool to see. We saw Tatsuro Taira get pushed a little bit. His guy had him in that choke as the third round ended, so that was a little impressive. Menafield, I felt really good about that win. I felt Crute, I don't know. Like we talked about, when you're putting your gloves in the middle of the octagon at 27 years old, I'm glad I wasn't on that side pre-fight.
No, all respect to these people, but it's like, I don't, like, where's your head at, and it's just like, he's been through a lot earlier in his career, right? And it's like, if he's not in it anymore, that's definitely, going forward, something we want to pay attention to, I think, right? And it's going to kind of need to earn that respect back in a lot of people's eyes to be, trusted again as a solid fighter. So, but Menafield looked good in there as well, and kind of beat him in his through bombs, and then kind of beat him in his own game, right? So that was cool to see.
He's everything I wanted William Knight to be.
Oh my God, William Knight.
Did you see Dan Hooker release those X-rays?
Yes, I saw. Were they the real X-rays? But then everyone was just putting the fucking pit bulls in them. So,
well, exactly. But not surprising. We were watching up at our cottage, and that kick that Turner landed on his cheek, you could hear the crack. Like, everyone sat up right away. So the fact that he pushed through some of that and really just outclassed Turner through the rest of the fight was so impressive. It looked like our guy, the Tarantula, who me and you had a bit of a tough tough week.
Dude, he was my biggest bet of the week. I can't fucking find a win just because of you know, the the nature of high level fighting. You know, it's like, and Dan Hooker just kept coming back, and we were saying it right. It's like Turner probably did more damage, and like you saw it after the fact, just in terms of the X-rays, right? But man, he wore it well and just kind of came back and beat him up. So pretty crazy to see.
No, that's exactly right. And I mean, yeah, it's one of those things. I say it about every sport, but it's like the more you look into some of these past results and stuff, at the end of the day, they're getting in there. And whether it be feeling good about Moreno, you feeling good about Whitaker, Turner. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a tough sport to bet on. So we try to survive where we can. But one more shout out, Robbie Lawler. I saw some people on Twitter saying it was. And these, I mean,
he took a dive. He took a dive.
I mean,
I can see the UFC paying him to take a dive, but like, why they don't do that for it?
Yeah, you can't fake.
But the promo being ready to go was too good.
Promo was wild, and
it's the first time they've done like a promo for a guy. Like, well, I guess it's the first has won, right? So like, who said they hadn't done it before?
Yeah, well,
I don't know.
And it was just, I mean, they did have 20 minutes to kill before the pay-per-view. So I think that was it might have even come together late, but sitting there, and it was funny too, because they kind of beat him to the punch a couple times. They didn't give him the chance to say, like, I retire. They just were like, this got to be your last. We're going to show you this promo video that says, like, thank you. And it's like, I mean, obviously they knew he was probably hanging it up.
I know Joe Rogan wasn't giving him a choice in there, but it was awesome to see, and I'm glad we saw somebody go out probably the way.
Yeah, and one more quick question for you: do you think so? Looking at that co-main flyweight, Pantoja Moreno, do you think we see that again? Do you think they kind of sit Moreno back for a bit and say we got to get?
I bet Pantoja will defend it once more against somebody else. You know, and I think it's probably Royval, even though they've fought before, but you know, both of them, again, it's a change fight, right? And if it's anything like what we saw, kind of a few year layoff fight in this last time, you know, I think it'll be a good one. But you know, Moreno's not going anywhere either, so I think he'll be back there, if not this fight, the next. You know.
Yeah, that was a tough one because I mean, he got beat. I agree with you. Watching it back, I think. Although he might have caused a little more damage. It's hard to put those rounds where he had so much control, where Pantoja had so much control against him. So I totally agree. That was a tough one. But with that said, hopefully we have more fight cards like that and a little less with the lineup we're looking at this week. Let's get
but I'm excited, John. There's some decent fights on here.
There are. It's a tough card.
Not a fun like headliner, you know, but like there's some good ones. So I'm looking forward to breaking it down.
Fair enough. We have UFC Vegas 76, another Holly Holm headliner. It's kicking off this Saturday. I believe the prelims are starting all the way at 7 p.m. That's going to be a late night, but hopefully with such a full card, it will be worth it. Ryan, let's hop straight into it. Who do we have in the first fight?
Yeah, let's get down to the first fight, John. We've got Ashley Evans Smith taking on Eileen Perez. What do we know about him, John?
Yeah, this is the bottom of the card you might expect. It's a fight with two people we've seen before. First, we have the Rebel Girl, 1-4 in her last 5 with a 6-5 record professionally. Ashley Smith coming in 36 years old. I think that's going to be a big determinant in this fight, especially with two fighters that aren't giving off the most confidence. She did come in at the slight underdog, which I think reflects that. Then she's going up against Aline Fiona Perez. She may be known. She likes to drop a twerk after a big win. She would definitely fall on the side of Sean Strickland's tweet where he said, I always got to root for the ugly one or the one who doesn't care about that when it comes to women's MMA, which I'm not usually a Sean Strickland guy, but I think that might be a decent strategy in a toss-up fight. I like Perez. I remember being a little impressed by her tape in the lead up to the Stephanie Egger loss. She did get rear naked choked there. I think this is a toss-up fight. I'm going to go with the younger fighter, the fresher fighter. I mean, she's 0-1 in the UFC. But that was a difficult matchup against a girl that has a lot more height and reach than her. So I'm gonna fade Evan Smith here and go with Perez. What about you?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's a really good breakdown, and I'm on the same side here. I won't spend too much time talking about it, but Ashley Evans Smith is coming in now at 36 years old, getting up there in age. Hasn't fought in over 2 years. Had like a spinal surgery in that time. That's just never
Not
something
ideal.
I want to be betting on. And this line's really ballooned out. If we want to take a look at it, right? Eileen Perez down to about minus 220 now at this point, but started a lot closer to even. I jumped in there at about like minus 180 or something. And it's not because I think Eileen Perez is so good, but at a 65-ish% implied probability, right? Like I think she wins this fight 7 out of 10 times, and that was kind of my threshold. So, I think this is probably getting a little wide in a women's MMA fight that's probably going to take place on the feet. So it's not something I'd probably be playing much of at this point, but I think Perez is going to be the stronger girl, and I think she can take the fight where she needs to against a girl I just don't rate that highly in Evan Smith. And John, with that, let's keep it moving.
Yep. Tell us what we have after that.
We've got Carl Deaton III and Alex Munoz.
CD3, your guy.
CD3, one of the best, Tapology pictures there is. What do we know about him, John?
Yeah, so coming in at a lightweight fight here, Deaton, who goes by, I'm gonna let you go for that one on that nickname. Don't wanna butcher it too bad.
The Anishinaabe Kid.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Oh, this fight, we have 2 33-year-olds, similar. Deaton a little more experienced, 17-6. He's coming off that loss against Joe Selecki, which was a pretty impressive performance by Selecki. But he also, that was his first fight in the UFC this year. And then you have Alex Munoz, who is a slightly less experienced fighter. His last fight, he lost to Luis Pena, who's 8-3, but that was over 2 years ago. So coming in with a lot less experience. Ryan, what do you see? Do you like Munoz as that slight favorite?
I do, and he's gotten a little wider as well. It's interesting. I feel like there's a lot of money just on UFC lately, with not a lot of other sports to bet on, and these lines like just continue to get pushed out earlier in the week, right? But Munoz is down to about a minus 180 favorite across the board here, and I think that's the more respectful line in this matchup, right? Like, the thing is, Munoz is coming off about a 2-year layoff as well, had some injuries and different things. Lost the split decision his last time out, but a lot of people scored that fight for him, and he looked good there, right? He was a D1 wrestler, and I think that's what most people are seeing here is the path to victory, is to implement that wrestling, right? And I don't rate Deaton's get up game or ground defense very highly. Kind of lost that way his last time out. I like Munoz in this one, and I think he kind of cruises to a decision, but not a fight I'm super interested in. Could be interesting for Munoz. I haven't really looked at DraftKings salaries, but his path to victory is probably pretty heavy takedown based. So that's something I might be looking at. This week.
And I think worth noting, just looking at it here, I mean, all the losses and wins from Munoz going back to 2016 have been decision. So I think if you're looking to maybe spice up your side of the bet here, you like Munoz, and I agree with you. I'm probably not going to touch it, but it might be worth looking at by decision.
Yep.
All right. Let's take us on to the next one. I like this. I think.
Yeah, this is a good one, and I'm excited to see this. We've got Tyson Nam and Azat Maxim. John, what do we know? I mean, Tyson Nam, obviously the kind of wily veteran at this point, fighting the undefeated fighter.
Yeah, if anyone's been a long time listener of the show, I like Tyson Nam a lot. I That did not pay off in 2 out of the last 3, which is somewhat a theme for guys I like in the UFC. But he lost a rear naked choke up against Bruno Silva, but did get the KO over Odie Osborne, which was a fun fight that I remember a lot. He's coming in 21, 13, and 1, tons of experience, but a big underdog. And I saw on the site you pulled up, it looks like it's moved a little bit in his direction, but not much. I think he's still around plus 300. He's coming in nearly 40 years old, going up against another fighter from Kazakhstan, 16-0, heavy favorite here. I don't see much of a reason to even bet on this fight. I think Azat's going to win this one, but you got to always remember Nam, he does have that one punch power. We've seen it throughout his career, and he's always liable to land one early. But do you see anything else?
No, I mean, I think that's a great breakdown, and yeah, that's the way I'm kind of approaching it as well. I think Maxim's the rightful favorite. It's way too wide, but I don't think there's a ton of value on the Nam side just because of, it's probably around round one. He can carry his power though. That's the thing. If Maxim doesn't kind of control him here and fight his fight, I think Tyson Nam's going to carry that power late. So it's not a terrible bet. I think if the line continues to balloon out, but I'd be approaching this kind of with he could be an interesting kind of play on DraftKings, right? Because if he scores well, I think he scores really well because it's probably going to be by knockout and as a probably one of the biggest dogs on the card. So he'll definitely be somebody I'm rostering a bit of.
What do you know, Ryan, about? I'm looking further into Azat's history. I mean, he's got 8 wins in the OL MMA Octagon League.
Mm-hmm.
What do you know about his competition in the past?
I've heard it's solid. I mean, I heard some stat it's closer to like 70-20 than like 50-30. So it and obviously that still depends, right? But watched a bit of tape on him. He always looks good. He's very physically athletic. Not to tell by his profile picture here, but he looks good in there. He looks always prepared to fight, right? He is a little bit older, right? But he's one of these prospects, just kind of like a Shavkat Rakhmonov, who kind of comes off out of nowhere. Another Kazakhstan fighter, right? Just like Rakhmonov. And he gets. My concern is I've seen him get hit in the couple fights I've watched, and that's not something you want against a guy like Bruno Silva, right? So if I was betting it, right, and I had to pick like a value side, I'd have to look at like the Silva round 1 KO or something. I think that could be a fun way to play it because I see that as his biggest path to victory. Otherwise, I see Maxim just being able to kind of pull away and get this done over 15 minutes.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, you see a lot of fighters in the past that come in on these kind of a little bit inflated records. Interesting that it's not exactly low level or anything, but like everyone knows, once you go in the UFC, different animal. 2 out of the last 3 by first round submission. Before that, 2 straight KOs. So I mean, very versatile fighter who it'll be interesting to see. I think it could be risky to be too aggressive with Nam. I think it'd be pretty impressive if he's able just to control the fight, but we'll see what happens there. Do you have anything else?
Nope. Let's keep it moving, John.
Right.
Next up, we're going to have Evan Elder and Gennaro Valdez. Both of these guys, this is a fine fight in my eyes. But, John, what are you seeing in this one?
Yeah, this is the card of guys that I've been convinced to bet on in the past. Evan Elder, I've seen him before. I've wagered.
Yeah. I've lost a bet on him.
He's lost before. So I think even possibly both his UFC fights, I've been tricked into it. You'd like to think I'd be.
He was winning the last one, though, if you remember. He was winning it. He was up 2-0 on all the judges' scorecards, but then had a big cut and was done.
That doctor stoppage, yep. So on paper, I wouldn't bet on him again. But looking at this fight, going up against Gennaro Valdez, who is 10-2, but coming off 2 losses, and those 2 losses, decision against Nathan Levy and a KO loss to Matt Favola, which is pretty solid competition. But he's coming in at a big underdog, opened at plus 230. He is 31 years old, going up against the younger Elder, who is 26 and open right near minus 300. Ryan, where are you feeling on this one? Kind of another card with fighters that are coming in a little bit off a negative streak, but could have a chance to turn it around.
Yeah, I think Evan Elder is perfectly average, and
Yeah.
is he deserving of a minus 300 favorite? Like, I don't think so at all. So if I'm betting this fight, I'm probably on the dog at this point with how far the line has gotten. And Elder's a good kind of all around fighter, but Valdez is somebody who I think has a lot more finish equity. And we've seen Elder stop before, and obviously it was a cut last time out, but I think there's a path to victory here for Valdez. Again, I think he scores well on something like DraftKings. But I'm still the official pick will be Evan Elder, just because I think he is, has a better opportunity to just pull away and win minutes in this fight. And, a straight up match, I think Elder still gets the job done and is able to kind of get it done over 15 minutes. I do have him by decision. I don't think he finds the finish, because, he is, he's got some power, right? But I think a guy like Valdez, who the chin worries me just because we've seen him get dropped so many times, but I don't think the power level on the Elder side is something like Matt Favola, so yeah. I don't know that it stacks up the same way that Valdez has gotten some tough matchups so far in the UFC. So interested to see this one. I think it's a closer fight than the line suggests. What are you seeing, John?
Yeah, I totally agree with a lot of what you said. I think Valdez coming in 0-2 in the UFC is a little bit at an odds disadvantage. But I mean, you look at those 2 fights, like I said, both really solid prospects in their own right. You had Favola, who's strung a couple great wins together here, as well as who else was it? As Levy, who's 7-1. So I think I probably tend to agree with you, especially talking about my history with Evan Elder. I'm not anywhere near touching him at such a heavy favorite. So I'd probably say maybe something light on Valdez. He does have some finishing power in the past. He's got 7 wins by KO. I might throw something light on a Valdez KO prop, but I'm probably just going to stay away from this one.
Yep. Nope. The same way. Next up, though, we've got Austin Lingo and Melquizael Costa. This is a good one, John. I think Costa's a fun kind of up and coming fighter. But what do you think? You like lights out Lingo? I know you might have bet on him in the past as well.
I actually didn't. I had Nate Landwehr, which I felt good about, but I like Lingo's game. He got the great nickname Lights Out. He is just turned 29, it looks like. Came in at the underdog here. Like I said, he got submitted by Nate Landwehr just over 3 months ago. And then before that, his last fight was actually a year and 10 months ago when he took down Luis Saldana. And then before that, Jacob Kilborn. So it hasn't been a very active fighter. That fight against Landwehr was his first in a while. And then he's going up against Milk Coffee.
Why did you say it like that?
Well, I was reading it. To be honest, it's the first time I've read it, but I was trying to figure out what it meant. I don't know. All right. Anyways, he's 19-6 career. He is coming off a loss against Thiago Moises, which was also a submission loss, the same as Lingo, but in a similar fashion. 2 wins before that, both on LFA, it looks like. Ryan, what are you feeling?
Yeah, John. I mean, I like the Costa side in this one. I really do. I think Austin Lingo looked bad his last time out against Nate Landwehr. I thought, like, he's a boxer, and like I kind of watched some tape on him before, and I think it was just a flat performance more than anything. But
Landwehr's a beast though too.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
Well, relatively.
yes, but he's relatively a beast. I mean, he's got better striking, right?
I mean, that Dan Ige fight was
He's got
not
his shit kicked. He got his shit
not a
kicked.
good look, but he strung a few together before that. But good
I'm
point.
just saying the train. I don't know. It was battle nicknames there, and Lights Out looked out of it. And I think I've watched some tape on Costa leading into his last fight against Moises. And I didn't bet him there. He was a pretty wide favorite, and he looked okay before he got taken down and just controlled, and then got out of there. The thing is, I think both of these guys want to strike in the spot more than anything. I think Costa is going to have much more diverse range of attacks to use and kind of implement here. A lot better kicks. Lingo is really just a boxer doing MMA, right? Like he's not going to kick all that much, isn't looking for takedowns. So I like the versatility of Costa to get it done. I do have a bet on Costa here for 2 units, but
What's the number you got for that?
I got it at minus 200 and it stayed right around there. I mean, it's like, yeah, like depends, it's right around there right now. But and there's love for as I've, continued to just kind of listen and research this week. There's love on the Lingo side just because, in the pure striking matches in the past prior to the Landwehr fight, right, is where, he's looked bad.
And like I said, that was his first fight back in a while. So if you weigh that at all, he's starting to get a little more active here.
Yeah.
If you're a lights out guy, that might make you feel positive, but I agree with a lot of what you said.
Yeah. All right, John. Any more to add on this one?
Nope.
All right. Next up, we've got Victoria Dudakova taking on Estela Nunes. John, who do we like here? Do we like the 6-0 favorite or the 6-4 women's MMA fighter?
I think there's really no way to hide it that Dudakova should win this fight. I mean, Nunes coming in 0-3 in the UFC, only 6-4 overall, like you talked about. This seems like either a spot where they didn't quite want to cut her yet, but I would assume this is her last UFC fight. Not a huge underdog, as I speak so confidently, so I'm sure that won't come back to bite me. But she's coming in at plus 230, almost 31 years old, and then she's going up, like you said, against the 6-0 Dudakova. She's coming in just under minus 300 to open, only 24 years of age, very young for female fighter. She does have reach and height on Nunes, and her one victory over 10 months ago, but it was a Dana White Contender Series unanimous decision. So I can't find a reason here. I've looked at it a little bit to bet on Estela, but Ryan, is there any way you'd take that underdog?
John, I'm going to shock you. I'm on the underdog.
Wow.
I like Estela Nunes here, and I think she gets the job done against Victoria Dudakova. I think she's going to knock her out because I don't think Dudakova can strike at all. She only is a grappler. She's only a grappler, and even in some of her fights on the regional scene, she's getting hit. But people don't hit like Estela Nunes. Like Estela Nunes just gasses out after 5.5 minutes. But I think if she can stuff one takedown and keep it on the feet for 30 seconds, we could have a similar situation to the Yargui fight last week. And I'm kind of looking at an angle like that more than anything. I think obviously if this fight gets extended, it's Dudakova all day and she probably finds a submission. But I don't know what the line is at right now. I got Nunes at plus 230 or something.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's because a lot of people are watching the tape and seeing the same thing, I think. And, Nunes is not a high level UFC fighter. And the thing is, she's just had a lot of her career in the UFC, right? Which is why she's losing fights. But she does have power. I think, she's going to be the far and away best fighter and best striker that Dudakova's, had to deal with. So even if it's just for 3 minutes, I think she might be able to find a way to get out of there.
And yeah, I mean, that probably did expose the fact I did not watch any tape on Estela Nunez in this one. So I believe what you're saying. I think it'll be interesting then, having that KO power. I mean, the tough thing is though, even even being that kind of fighter, you don't see a ton of them in the strawweight. You don't see a ton of them in the women's fights. So I would say I still feel good about Dudakova being able to withstand anything early. And like you said, I think as long as she gets out of that, um, she should be able to get it to the ground and have the advantage. But that's interesting. I mean, that might be a great pick for DFS if you see it as such a opportunity.
Yeah, I don't know where the salaries are at, but I agree. I mean, that would be the one of the fights I'm definitely looking to target because I think both of their win conditions score well, right? Because
Yeah.
Dudakova's probably factoring in takedowns, and it'll probably just be under own because it's a women's fight. So I think that could be a good one to target this week. Next up, though, we've got Tucker Lutz and Melsik Bagdasaryan. John, what do you know about these guys? What do we like from the Top Gun versus the
It's the
Gun?
battle of the guns, Ryan. It is the battle of the guns. First, we got Tucker, Top Gun Lutz, 12-3. Another fighter coming in off two consecutive losses. First to Daniel Pineda, submission. Then Pat Sabatini, which was decision. And then a win over Kevin Aguiar back over 2 years ago. So hasn't had a win in over 2 years. The line reflects it a bit. He's plus 175 coming in as the younger fighter at 29 years old. And then, like you said, we have another gun. We have Melsik, the gun Bagdasaryan, 7-2. His last loss was up against Josh Kulabau, which was a submission 5 months ago, but had 4 wins before that. He's out of Armenia, opened at minus 210, and he is the slightly older fighter. Ryan, is this another one where you like the underdog? And do you like the Top Gun or the gun?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be a good fight. It's probably a little bit closer than the line suggests. We'll take a look at it now, and that's kind of where it's getting to, right? Minus 160 and plus 135 here. I think that's a pretty good line. I think Bagdasaryan is definitely the side on the feet. Looks great on the feet, throws hard, but looked bad off of his back. Like, did not look UFC caliber when he was taken down, right? So I think if Lutz has any abilities to implement the wrestling here, he can probably win this fight, right? So I probably am gonna side with with Bagdasaryan here, but he's not somebody I'm at all interested on DraftKings just because his win condition is probably just kind of out pointing him. He can put Lutz out of there, but I think Lutz is a pretty tough guy and will survive for a bit of time. So I think Bagdasaryan's path to victory is probably like a striking based decision where Lutz probably needs to implement the grappling and find some takedowns, which obviously scores better. So I like Bagdasaryan to get the job done, but on DFS I'm going to be targeting a bit more Lutz, I think.
Yeah, makes sense to me. I think I like Melsik as well. So not much more to add there.
All right. Next up, though, I'm sure you've got something to say
Right.
on this one. We've got Terrence McKinney taking on Nazim Sadikov. John.
Yep. Everyone knows Terrence McKinney. He has made himself into a Twitter personality.
Loved or hated, I feel like, like he has,
It's a strong brand for a guy who it's
good way to
honestly
describe it.
impressive for a guy who hasn't done a ton yet in the UFC octagon. He is a guy that you'll see on the timeline every day with, like you said, either someone getting mad at him. Obviously, there was the drama with Barstool after his last KO loss when he was all mad at them for posting it, which as UFC content creators ourselves that do not fight, I think I'm on Team Barstool there. But we will see. So T Rex, he's coming in 13-5, a lot of experience for a young fighter. Open as a slight underdog with obviously the loss to Bonfim, that flying knee, pretty crazy KO. It'll be interesting just on that perspective, how he's able to bounce back from that. Then a win over Eric Gonzalez, which was a standing rear naked choke. I remember that one, pretty awesome. and a loss to Drew Dober right before that by KO. So this is a fighter that's got a lot of finishing going on, good and bad. He's a very action-heavy fighter, very violent fights. Open as a slight underdog, like I said, and only 28 years old. It's worth noting his reach here, one of the biggest reach advantages we've seen. Some people think that matters. Some are more or less not concerned with it. But then he's going up against the Black Wolf, Nazim Sadikov, 8-1, 5 consecutive victories, like you've seen there. He beat my guy Evan Elder. We talked about that one already. But he is just about the same age, 29 years old, and he is looking to make a statement as the favorite. Ryan, are you going with T-Rex or are you going with the Black Wolf?
Yeah, John, this is what I jumped in on a while ago, actually, and I'm on the T-Rex side once again. I'm ready
Terrence.
for him to lose me money. I'm ready for him to lose me money, but I'm on him. And I think he gets the job done. I've got a little bit of buyer's remorse, but I don't think this fight really warrants a big breakdown. I think Sadikov is probably the better striker on the feet. He's way more technical, right? But I don't think he has the death touch that McKinney does. I think McKinney's probably the better wrestler, right? But ultimately, it comes down to like the last couple of fights, McKinney has kind of stood back just a step, right, and has tried to like go outside of his his game plan that ultimately wins him fights, right? And the narrative this week is that like he's washed, or he's like he's scared to like go aggressive now, and like I don't get that vibe at all. I just don't think he has like the highest octagon IQ a lot of the time, right? It's just trying to fight the fight he thinks he needs to, right? I think there's a bit of an overthinking aspect, right, of how do I adapt and adjust now that I'm in the UFC, right? But I think if he goes back to what he does best here, he could just bum rush him and find a finish. So that's actually just the it's a simple breakdown. I think he goes out there and is either able to catch him quickly running in with something, or quickly implement the wrestling and get on top and look for the back and look for a choke. So that's how
I agree. I think it's an interesting one. He obviously started his UFC career 2-0, had a really impressive win over Matt Frevola, who's now gone on to nearly be a contender within the division. But then he had that KO loss to Drew Dober. Then he did get the submission victory against Gonzalez first round, so he took it to the ground right away. But another KO loss in his next fight against Bonfim. I think going up against the Black Wolf, Nazim here, who does, I believe, have 6 KOs in his career. I think it's a risky spot for T-Rex. I think that at least opening might be why the line reflected a little more worry on McKinney. I think coming in, especially off such a highlight KO loss, I worry, like you said, that he's not as aggressive as he'll need to be to kind of take Nazim off his game. And I think that could be just a bad strategy. I think, like you said, he needs to kind of use the athleticism, kind of make a impact on Nazim early. But if he lets Nazim just kind of pick him apart from range and use that technical striking, I think he's in trouble. So I like Sadikov here, probably by KO or finish. I think the way McKinney fights, you got to see value in something happening early. So that's where I would lean.
Yeah, no, I mean it's a tough one, right? And I think that's definitely, if it gets outside the first round, I think Sadikov is the obvious side, right? But it's a line that stayed pretty consistent of all of them this week, right? Which means there's a bit of money coming in on both sides. So you're seeing McKinney start to get down a little bit closer, but you still see money kind of coming in the other way as well. So I'll be interested. I don't think we'll see McKinney flip to any kind of favorite or something, but if anything,
well, maybe I'm wrong here. And I mean, I guess I don't know how much the general public's betting on it yet, but kind of the half UFC fan who might not be looking into every fight, Terrence McKinney is one of those guys, especially for a free Vegas fight night. We'll get people tuning in. We'll get people betting. And for a lot of people, he is that fan favorite. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see maybe a little more movement towards him.
Yeah, that's a good point, John.
But I agree. Especially, I might wait now a little longer, see if Sadikov drops a little more. But I like this fight, and I'm hoping it's early, over early, one way or the other.
Yeah, no, that's a good way to look at it. Next up, though, we've got Norma Dumont and Chelsea Chandler. Not much of a breakdown here, John. We've got Norma the Immortal Dumont and Chelsea Chandler. Um, Chandler is, I guess, the prospect that's being pushed a little bit more here. This fight's taking place at 145 pounds, though, which is just the division that Amanda Nunes retired from. Apparently, the UFC is doing away with it. It sounds like this is the last ever women's 145-pound fight. So I'm not really sure why it's taking place. I like Dumont here. I think she's a better striker. I think she can keep the fight on the feet and ultimately, just pick Chandler apart at range. I don't really like her to find a finish. I think she gets it done by, decision. Whereas Chandler's probably going to look to implement a little bit more of the wrestling, right? Chains out of Caesar Gracie Jiu-Jitsu and, is a pretty decent fighter on the ground. So she's going to look to more grapple here and find a path to the mat. But I think Dumont, she fought in a main event before, like she's not that bad. And I don't know. I've never rated Chelsea Chandler that highly, but what do you think here, John?
Yeah, I'm in a similar spot. Don't have much analysis. Honestly, pretty impressed with both of their backgrounds. Like you said, Dumont coming in 9-2. Both have kind of extensive UFC careers here. I agree with you. I don't have too much of a strong feeling on this one. Maybe what do we see? Let me look at the odds real quick.
Yeah, let's pull them up.
So it looks like it moved a little bit towards Dumont.
Yeah, we'll take a look here. So Chandler actually opened about a pick 'em, and still close to a pick 'em, but obviously the money has been coming in on Dumont. So
Yeah, I mean Dumont by decision plus 115 stands out if you're going to take it. I agree with you. I don't think this one's going to be very friendly to an early finish, but both do have a career that has featured that in the past. Dumont coming in with, well, just 2 submission victories, but none of those relatively recently either. Chandler, actually, though, she came into the UFC in her debut, got a ground and pound round 1 victory, which is pretty impressive. I'd take the Dumont by decision and probably not bet it at all. But
yeah, I'm the same way, John. Let's keep it moving. Next up, though, we've got Albert Duraev and Jung Young Park. This is a good fight. I think this is one of the better, closer fights on the card in my mind. We've soon seen Duraev for only a little bit in the UFC. He's looked pretty solid during his time. He's the one whose eye always blows up when he fights. And then Jung Young Park, the Iron Turtle, sick nickname. I bet on him, cash on him a couple times recently, right? Like 2-0 in his last 2 fights. I had him big against Dennis Tululin because Park there implemented the grappling and looked good and ultimately got the rear naked choke, right? Against Duraev here, it's really going to be 2 fighters who I think are going to be, standing close on the feet and kind of just swinging at each other a little bit. I don't think either of them are the most technical strikers, but I think I trust Park to implement the wrestling more over 15 minutes, whereas Duraev, he could win round 1, but if he doesn't find the finish on Park, which I think is pretty tough to do, I think he will still gas out, and that Park can kind of just outpace him and outwork him with his wrestling and with some solid boxing as well. So, the thing is, I think Duraev might be the better pure wrestler, but I just don't trust his gas tank enough to be able to do it over an extended period, right? So I think there's a path to victory for both of them, but I like the Iron Turtle in this spot. The line's probably a little bit wider than it should be, right? I think Park is a very slight favorite is more appropriate, but if I'm looking to do like a closer odds parlay, right, and look for a decent return, like Park's going to be the way I'm leaning in this one. But what are you seeing, John?
yeah, I totally agree. I think this is one of the more exciting fights on the card. Obviously, like you said,
I think this could be like a sleeper fight of the night. Like, not a lot
Yeah,
of people are talking about it for that, but I think both of these guys kind of match up and have similar skill sets, right? So,
I agree. And I mean, outside of the great nickname, the Iron Turtle is pretty electric. I think you look at their past fights, they both have some KOs. They've both been KO'd. They both have had some submissions, and they both submitted people. So I think you're seeing a fight that could be favored to end early. I'm looking at the odds right now. The one that stood out to me was you're getting plus money on an under 2.5. Always tough, especially if they're content on taking it to the ground and battling there. You can't be quite as confident about a finish, but you do have Park coming in off, I believe, two straight submission victories. Yeah, two straight rear naked chokes actually. So both against Dennis Talulian
Lulin.
Tululin and Joseph Holmes. Before that, a decision victory over Eric Anders. So these are two fighters that have proven themselves, which is a rarity on this card. And I think I agree with you. If I'm going to touch something, it might be Young Park. And based on liking that under 2.5, I might look by inside the distance. So
Yeah, I mean, you were getting like plus 400 on the sub and plus 500 on the KO. I think the KO is actually the more likely path. I think
okay,
the sub's getting a lot of love just because of
straight.
the fact he's done it two straight, right? But I think if I think if Duraev gasses, I think Park can keep it on the feet and just start to pick him apart with the boxing a little bit more than Duraev can, who's going to be looking to wrestle first and foremost. I think so. Let's keep it moving though. Up the card here, we've only got 3 fights left. A couple good ones though, and 2 or 3 that I'm definitely looking forward to. Well, 2 or 3. There's only 3, but we've got Otman Azaitar and Francisco Prado, both one-loss fighters. Both, I think, in their second fights in the UFC.
Prado, it's going to be his
the much younger guy, and but it's an interesting fight and a closely aligned fight, the closest line fight of the week. John, what do you think?
Yeah, this one should be a really interesting fight. I was kind of surprised to see Prado this high up the card. I mean, it is a light card, but 0-1 in the UFC. Came in, I believe, right as a heavy favorite in that last fight against.
No, he came in on short notice. Remember?
Oh, that's him. There's the other guy.
He fought Malarkey before Malarkey, then fought the guy on short notice who beat him.
Decision loss to Jimmy Malarkey in his debut, but he's still coming in or opening up at least as a slight favorite here. He is 11-1 in his professional career. Most of that taking place in Samurai Fight House, which I think who else?
Eileen Perez was the champ.
Yeah, there's been a lot of randoms going through the Samurai Fight House. If you ever make it to their YouTube channel, they do a good job producing their fights. I remember watching some good tape over there. But then we got Otman Azaitar, the Bulldozer, 13-1. Like Ryan said, similar and only one loss. Going up against Matt Frivola was his one loss. So not a terrible loss to have on your card, especially right now. Before that, 2 straight UFC victories. However, they were nearly both 3 and 4 years ago, respectively. So not a guy who gets in there a lot. He's already 33.5. He's only got the 14 fights and the 3 in the last 4 years. So this is an interesting one. Ryan, what are you seeing here? Do you think Prado can get that first victory as the favorite?
Man, I mean, I think he's got more finishing upside probably here, but I think both of them have high finishing upside. Azaitar looks very flat last time out against Matt Frivola. Something just looked a little bit off there, but at 33 years old, I think the time for him to get it done is right now, whereas the UFC might be pushing Prado in this case. I think he's has a lot of upside. He has a lot of upside, I think, but I think Azaitar might be more well-rounded. So it's a tough fight for me, because I think if Azaitar has anything left in the tank, I kind of favor him to win minutes a little bit better. And, I still don't love Prado's. Prado's still 21 years old, right?
Yeah,
Has not
that's
fought a very
tough.
high level of competition at all, and it's like, I, as we said, right, he's got 2 wins in the UFC. I got to trust him a little bit more at a higher level. So if, I think it's flipped actually now, or it's
Yeah, you're
just about,
right. So
it's,
Azatars coming in minus 120 at the moment.
yeah, I mean, it's pretty even, right? You look across the board here, but people have been like, I think that's what it is, right? There's a lot more experience on the Asatar side, and he's fought a much higher level of competition. We still just don't know enough about Prado, but I think there's obvious, finish equity on the Prado side that you got to respect, and it might be worth if you're looking to root for somebody in a good KO, right? Like I think that on Prado would be a fun one this week.
Yeah, like you said, 11 victories, 11 by finish. I believe it's 6
Right.
KOs or 5 KOs, 6 submissions. So I think it's definitely going to be a fun fight. Like I said, I'm surprised Prado, with such little experience and being 21s this high up, which I think you may be right. They might be pushing him a little bit. Looking for hopefully a star in the making. If I had to go on one here, I think I'd go Prado by KO, but
Okay.
that's I don't know. That's more. I see the prospect. Obviously, he's young, but I think I'm rooting for that, so I'm just gonna ride that on the bet card as well.
Absolutely. No. So another one we're disagreeing on here, John, but one of us is going to be happier than the other this weekend, it appears. But that's all right. I think we might be agreeing on the next one. We've got Jack Della Maddalena and Basel Hafez. John, what do we know? What do we know
Yeah,
about this?
I think everyone's pumped for this one. Della Maddalena obviously had everyone excited for last week. Everyone was pumped to see him fight again. It was funny. We were up at our cottage and going to shout out Connor here, one of our cousins. He
Connor.
not a huge UFC guy, likes it, watches it, has some roommates that love it. But he told us JDM is his favorite fighter in the whole promotion right now. And I think that's the energy he's on at the moment. He's putting together such an impressive, violent streak here that it's hard to not be a fan once you've come across him. He's coming in 14-2, huge favorite, minus 625. I'm sure that's probably only moved further in his direction, unless I'm wrong. Only 26, and obviously fighting out of Australia. Then he's going up against Basel Hafez, the Habibi, which is a funny nickname.
I don't know if they have it on here yet.
um, I think maybe it was near the. Wait, I think they have it on fight odds.
Oh, hang on, I got it here too. Keep going.
But anyways, the Habibi coming in 8-3, pretty decent record in his own right. But this will be his UFC debut. I think they're throwing him to slaughter here, unfortunately, for the Habibi. Kind of, they needed to make a JDM fight right away, and he will be the sacrifice. Open at plus 450. He's fighting from the U.S. and he is just above 31 years old. So Ryan, which way do you like JDM winning? Assuming you must have JDM winning.
Yeah, man. I think the BB is a better fighter than the odds might give him credit for. I don't think he's like he's not Weston Wilson or whatever that guy they brought in off the regional scene to fight Brito, right? Like this guy's pretty decent. He trains with high level guys, has trained in a lot of different camps and like at elevation and stuff. So but the thing is he's trained at elevation, but his cardio is bad, really bad, and against a guy like JDM,
Yeah.
that's essentially saying, okay, he needs to find a finish early to beat him, right? And while there's always that chance for something crazy, and I think it would obviously kind of come by submission, as he's going to be grapple first guy, look to fight, get the fight to the ground. But I just don't really see that happening here against a guy like Maddalena, as you said, John, is kind of really what's next, and I think has a really decent shot to get towards a title here in the UFC. So I'm agreeing. I'm going to go Maddalena. I'm going to get him inside the distance, and I think it's going to come by KO. I think he wants to keep this fight on the feet, right? And if he does, he will quickly catch him. Obviously, there's kind of a knock him down and sub him angle as well, right? But obviously, I think even the inside the distance line will be pretty juiced this weekend. But I do really like him on DraftKings, though. I mean, there's obvious upside on Hafez, but Madalena is going to be a higher favorite. But as we talked about, I think he was at 9,700. That's the one salary I did see, and I think that's a lot, right? But the reason I like it so much is I think Hafez knows he kind of needs to come in here and get it done early, right, to be most effective and actually have a chance, right? So I kind of see him kind of going in and going for it. And in my mind, a fight like that scores well. He's either gonna, go down quickly, right, or take a beating and then probably go down. So in that case, I like Madalena. I think he's the side both in the fight and on DraftKings. It's not something I'm betting on, but could be a parlay piece, right? Like Madalena inside the distance, I think wins at a very high rate this weekend. But last up, we've got Holly Holm taking on Mayra Bueno Silva. I feel like Holly Holm is like 102 years old.
I think she's had 200 main event spots.
The preacher's daughter. I don't know how she's only 15-6.
She's got blackmail over Dana almost for sure.
I mean, Holly though coming in at almost 42 years old against the 10-year junior Mayra Bueno Silva, Shitara Silva. But what do you think about this fight, John? Do you think Holly Holm still has it in the tank? Or do you think Bueno Silva can find a way to, this would be a big win for her, right? I mean, one of the goats of women's MMA, I think, in the UFC.
Yeah, you're spot on. So me not wanting to see Holly Holm as a main event does not take away from the fact, obviously, UFC legend, 15-6, like you said. Her last victory only just over 2 months ago, which makes us feel that much quicker for another main event over Yana Santos. If I remember correctly, it looked really impressive there. Kind of just went to work all 5 rounds, and was a big fan of that. Honestly, don't love this one. She opened at -165. Has it moved in any direction here?
You're still seeing around -180 for Holm. That's about where it is now.
Like, bummer as it is, I mean, 41. You don't love that. You don't love putting money on that. Especially with some of the fighters we've seen in the past. Eventually, you just don't have it. But I was really impressed by her last fight, and she's got 3 out of the last 5, which is pretty solid against her level of competition and just the notoriety that she brings about and kind of the target on her back. So I'm probably would stick with Holm here. Don't feel great about it. Probably don't bet this fight. I think on DraftKings, she may be an interesting one, especially in these 5-round fights. She's able to throw out a lot of volume and kind of has a very diversified attack. So I might look more towards that, but honestly, I don't love this fight from either side. What do you think?
Yeah, John. I mean, Holly Holm's looked a lot. She's had a different approach past the age of like 38, 39, right? Where she has become much less of the dominant kind of striker on the feet, right? Using a lot of head kicks and different things like that. And has become much better at, the knowledgeable skills of MMA, right? Like cage control and like good grappling and like, fight IQ. And that's how she's really dominated her last couple of fights, right? And I think even probably winning the split decision loss she had to Ketlin Vieira, right? Like I think she won that fight as well. But I think Holm can just kind of outvet her here over the 15 minutes. So a spot that I'm probably going to play as soon as we get off here, I was looking at it just before. You can get Holm still at +110 to win by decision. I think that's her path to victory. I think the upside to finish is on the Bueno Silva side, right? So there's some definite like DraftKings path to victory there as well. But I do like Holm here. I think she gets it done by decision. She's not a bad DraftKings play as well, right? Like I'll definitely have some of her just because I think she does use wrestling to win here more than likely. And we still know, if she turns it on the feet, she's a pretty good fighter. I think obviously the biggest concern is, she's 42 years of age, and how many times can you continue to fight at the top? But I don't think the fear factor on the Bueno Silva side coming back at her is really something that she needs to be too concerned about compared to some of the fighters she's taken on in the past.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. And I think it's worth noting, in agreement with your decision pick, Bueno Silva, 7 submission victories. So if you're home, you might be a little less concerned if you're controlling it on the feet to do anything too drastic to try to look for the finish on the ground or anything like that. But I agree. I think you got to take the experience here. See home, maybe hopefully close out her career on a little bit of a streak here. Maybe this one, you couldn't think more than 1 or 2 more after that, but it'll be
Go
interesting.
give her another title shot at UFC 300. Come on.
Honestly, it would
43 and a half years old.
It would make sense just kind of keeping her around, but
to come back and fight Ronda Rousey at UFC 300, Holly Holm versus Ronda Rousey.
that'd be sick, honestly. I'd love Ronda to appear again.
Apparently, though, I saw something like Ariel Hawani today said that there was like no truth to the recent rumors. So
was that a rumor? I thought you were just making that up.
No, she was. I mean, well, they had been talking about her coming back lately because apparently she like left the WWE, whatever the fuck she's been doing. But I don't know what she does. But apparently she was talking about come back. So, but yeah,
they're gonna trade her into the UFC and then get McGregor back in the WWE.
I like that, John. I like that. But yeah, guys, what a 13 fight card we've got this weekend. Holm and Bueno Silva up at the top, and then we got Jack Della Maddalena and so other good fights throughout this card. Terrence McKinney is going to be fighting. Really looking forward to that one. I think John's going to get toasted with his Victoria Dudikova pick here. We'll see what happens. And
I've been exposed there.
No, I mean I think there's still a higher. I think she still wins the fight probably, but I'm going to stay. You got to stick to your guns. I'm going with Nunez in that one.
We're on different sides throughout. It should be a fun night.
It should be a fun one. Make sure you guys are following at the official accounts, right? We've got at Cage Cash Podcast, and then you've got John at Round Mound UFC, Ryan at Ryan's MMA Picks. Check them out there in the screen. And yeah, we're really looking forward to this one. We'll have all of our picks out on the Twitter. We got a nice new graphic that we've done up. And we'll have some best bets as well. And keep a lookout. I might even have some DFS kind of content or little graphics as well. So really appreciate you guys tuning in. Leave a like, leave a comment down below. Want to shout out all our new followers in the last couple of weeks, getting up on 30 subscribers, which is pretty beast. I think at least half of that audience is non like family members at that point. So you gotta love that for the Cage Cash Podcast brand. And yeah, we're ready to cash with you guys. Hope you do. Best of luck on the card this weekend. John, any final thoughts?
Yeah, 2 quick shout outs. First, I'm going to give one to Jason. Here is our first official comment. We love that. He first time watching the UFC was this past weekend.
He got hooked. You had the red pill. You got red pilled on UFC. What a card, though. What a card to get. What a card for your first ever, combat sports experience. You watch UFC 290, pretty beast.
You can see it when that head kick lands. All of a sudden, the eyes light up, and it's a fan for life. But outside of that, also shout out to Ryan for, like he said, building this graphic. We keep advancing. We're going to keep trying to level this up. Hopefully up our game on things like Twitter and YouTube and all that. But we got Max coming in the background here. So anyways, so Ryan doesn't have to unmute again and we can listen to his dog bark. I will sign off. This has been Cage Cash Podcast, episode 13. Excited for a great UFC Vegas 76 this weekend, and we will see you next week. Thank you.